Shashank, Anthropic is just pissing me off right now. I gotta tell you, like, they go on this whole kind of like dog and pony show, just spreading doom and gloom about how their Mythos model and Fable model are too powerful, it can't be released. And then it was just like on your random Friday, Anthropic goes, and then they release with no fanfare whatsoever, less guardrails, more open. They release their clearly state of the art Claude Opus 5. Like, by all benchmarks, by all metrics, Claude Opus 5 is the best model out right now, beating everything. Yet it's even beating Fable. Yet somehow they can just like release this because it's not like a new class of model. Like Opus 5 is like way better than Fable. Yet somehow it's like not too dangerous to release. Like I don't get it. Like they're trying to thread the line between like working with the government and like releasing new models and saying how their models are so dangerous, yet somehow this is like fine to release. Like look, I am a big fan of releasing new models, but the thing is like you can't have it both ways. Like you can't say like our stuff is so dangerous we can't release it and then just like release things that are more powerful. Like I don't know, Anthropic like it feels like very dishonest to me right now. I don't know, Shashank, what's your take on it?
I think we're seeing the age of regulation where companies have to be really careful about how they go through the process of releasing new frontier models. And to be clear, this is a new frontier. This is pushing the boundaries of intelligence. This is beating benchmarks and creating new leaderboards across the board. So we saw last month that they tried to release Fable 5. It got recalled. They tried to release it again. And they had to, neuter it even more on two areas. One is cybersecurity and one is technology or biology. And here we do see they mention like bio benchmarks, but like maybe they have neutered it even more. They didn't mention that they didn't train Opus 5 on any cybersecurity tasks specifically compared to Fable 5, which is still way better at cybersecurity. And, I think there's real consequences to this because, like, we can talk about this a little bit later, but OpenAI's model went out there and hacked another platform. So these models are really capable at finding security vulnerabilities, at finding zero-day vulnerabilities. That means like issues in software out there in the public that are available today. And you can go out there, exploit it, steal customer data, steal company data, bring the entire server down. And companies are using it today. So right now, yes, the cybersecurity stuff is still not available publicly. It's only available to like a consortium of a few companies that are using it to like white hat hack and pass those vulnerabilities in Western software so that America is protected. So I think like, this is the new normal, man. These models are getting really, really powerful. It's no longer just, do some tedious tasks and transcribe my emails. This is like serious hack this company server and bring this down, or figure out this drug interaction so that I can build a next generation of bioterrorism warfare. So this is like serious business. And so it makes sense that they have changed their strategy a little bit. They don't want to release this to a bunch of fanfare and then it'll get like blocked by the US government again. And who knows, maybe they actually had this in the pipeline a couple weeks ago, getting it reviewed by the US government because they learned from last time trying to release Fable 5 and they get blocked and have a bunch of users pissed off, angry that they subscribed to Cloud Code just so they could get access to Fable 5. And then Anthropic blocked access again, not by their own choice, but because they were asked to by the US government. So there's a lot going on. But I'm personally excited. I've been using this for a few days. It seems pretty good. It's still, an LLM. It hallucinates sometimes. It got some things wrong, but like it is really, really good.
Yeah, so it's definitely good. And I've been considering giving Anthropic money so I could use it. Like it's clearly the best. But I'll be honest, I am concerned that it's going to be taken away, because I remember I used Fable for 3 days and then it was taken away, and it was a real bummer. And Anthropic didn't give me any money back, and like I don't know how much like I don't know red teaming the U.S. government actually did on this model. Like, I mean, did the U.S. government give them the okay, or is Anthropic trying to get one over on the U.S. government? I mean, they did release it on a Friday. I mean, like oftentimes, like if you're trying to do like bad news, like you'll do it like on a Friday on a long weekend, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to release this on Thanksgiving, and then other things come in the news cycle and people forget about it, right? Like if they would have released it on a Monday or a Tuesday, well, then the government would have been in session for that entire time, so they would have had time to like go and like review it, right? And maybe ban it. But now, since it's like a Friday, they might say, like, oh, well, it's already been in the market for, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. By the time Monday comes around, there's like a new like battle to fight. So like, I don't know. It bothers me because like the thing that I'm most worried about is like, I feel like anything like Anthropic is this is maybe exactly what they want, where like anything that is like better than Fable is now going to have like scrutiny from like both like myself and like people in the government, right? So it's like now like what I'm worried about is like, all right, right today is like July 27th in Japan, 2026. And then I guess like in the States, like in North America, it's like Sunday evening. It's like July 26th, 2026, right? And what I'm worried about is that like the current state of AI capabilities, even though it could be like way better, right? Like I would assume that like in research labs right now, they're like the research labs might be like a few months ahead of where things are currently, right? So for example, like, I'm sure OpenAI and Anthropic and maybe Google, maybe XAI, they have something that's like maybe better than state of the art right now, because it's
I don't think Google has that yet, but continue.
well, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's assume that they do. I don't know. All these companies are working on things that are better, right? I think we can agree on that, right? So they're probably at least a few months ahead. And at the rate that we see development happening, a few months ahead is potentially a lot of intelligence, right? So it's like if on the artificial analysis benchmark, if Fable was a 60, and then Opus 5 is a 61, and GPT 5.6 is a 59 right now. Like maybe like OpenAI is working on something that's like a 65 or even like a 70. I don't know. Like it, and then like I think we have to remember that a little bit in intelligence gain is a massive amount of like ability, right? Because it's like you think about it. Like the difference between like an average person, like an Einstein, and a dumb person is only like a few IQ points, right? Like, I mean, like, if average is 100 IQ and like a dumb person is like, let's say like under 100, like 90 IQ or like 85 IQ, that's like, like not very smart person. And then like, Einstein is like what, like 130, something like that. Like in raw percentage terms, like, we're only talking about like a 20% difference, right? So it's like if these if these labs have something that is like, let's say 10% better or 20% better than the current state of the art, that's like the difference between like average person and Einstein, right? So like it's a pretty, like, even though like in terms of like raw benchmarks, it might not be that much, like it's literally the difference between like average Joe, Einstein, and then like soon it's gonna be like super Einstein who's better than at everything, right? So my point is that like every little tiny increase in intelligence, in theory, could warrant suspicion from government agencies. And I'm worried that like because of Anthropic's like doom and gloom and trying to shut down open source models and all this regulatory capture. We're gonna just like block progress right here, and then there's gonna be this like stratified like intelligentsia of people who are working in the labs who have access to this like super god awesome technology, and then the people who are like maybe in the government, they're gonna have access to like this technology, and then the rest of us, like the other 99%, won't have it, and we'll be just like too stupid compared to like these top of the line models that like we won't be able to ever catch up, and then we'll be permanently in this like underclass without having access to like the smartest intelligence, whereas like all the other people who have access to intelligence that's just like, you know, maybe 10% better, but it's like Einstein level compared to us, and then they'll be able to use that intelligence and then build better models for themselves, and then they'll just like have the singularity, the recursive self-improvement, like the amazing technology, and then none of us will have it because like Anthropic just like blocked technology at Fable 5. And that's what I'm worried about. And that's why Anthropic pisses me off, because like I think Anthropic and their, you know, doom and gloom about how AI is going to end the world is going to make it so that like it will actually end the world, because like Anthropic will recursively self-improve, and they'll have access to all the compute, and they'll be able to do everything better than all of us, and they're gonna have access to all the intelligence, but then the US government is gonna make it like, oh no, it's better than Fable, like you can't have it, and then no one will be able to have it except for the researchers, and that is not a future that I want. So Anthropic, if you're listening to this, like do better, and like allow more like start having like a more positive view on AI, because I think that like if we have the AI go out into the world, we can like doing biomedical research is a good thing. Like sure, like it's possible for people to maybe develop a bioweapon. Yeah, but like also it's possible for people to help cure cancer and solve disease and solve aging. And if we just like block all biomedical research, well then like we're not going to be able to have longevity escape velocity. We're not going to be able to have the increases in like medicine. Like I think that it's a really dangerous thing to say like no biomedical research, because it's like biomedical stuff is important, and it's like if we have the government involved in every last little thing, it's just going to slow down progress, and we won't be able to get like the hyper abundance future that we desire. And if you just like are too focused on like the doom and gloom, you're going to get doom and gloom. I don't know, man. Anthropic, like right now, I look at them as like the bad guy, but like I think they could change it. I think there's a lot of smart people who are working at Anthropic that like have the best intentions in mind. And I know that this is not their goal to be looking at as seen as the bad guy, but right now, like I look at them as like the regressors, like the slower down of open source, like the people who are not going to give us living to forever, and that makes me really sad, because like I want them to do better. So Anthropic, if you're listening, please just like go and then try to like raise the boats for everybody, because like the current rhetoric around like the doom and gloom around the future like really bums me out. And it doesn't have to be this way. So I don't know. That's a bit of a rant, but yeah, I'll just Shock. I'll hand it over to you. Thoughts?
I personally am in the other camp. I think a lot of your frustration is misdirected at Anthropic, while it should be directed at the U.S. government, which is kind of like handing over the keys to China to develop and push the frontier forward by blocking access to U.S. models, to U.S. chips, and even before this, to U.S. smartphones, which they did with Android and let Huawei and Chinese smartphones catch up. They did that with NVIDIA, and now SMIC and Chinese memory companies and Chinese model companies on top of that are now catching up. And I think it is kind of like, I get it, despite being someone who is directly affected, and I'm not allowed to use Fable 5 because I'm not a US citizen. And you're talking about Anthropic, but even Anthropic employees who are not US citizen, and Andre Karpathy, who is one of the most prominent figures in AI research right now is not able to use Mythos 5 because he's not a US citizen and he can't get access to these models which are able to do frontier cybersecurity and biology research. So it's not really Anthropic. On the doom and gloom side, I feel like they have been trying to express the gravity of this situation, of the fact that we are in this recursive loop where we're able to build more intelligent uh, capabilities in these models. Yes, I day to day I still get frustrated, and there's times when these models make mistakes and they don't do things quite as well as I wanted to. But if you kind of look at, you mentioned artificial analysis, it's kind of like this abstract raw score of intelligence, which they combine by joining a bunch of different benchmarks, a bunch of different capabilities across a lot of different industries, using coding ability, using general question answering ability, using a separate benchmark which they collaborated with OpenAI on called GDP eval, and they evaluate tasks that would actually have an impact on the GDP of the economy, and the intelligence keeps going up. I think it's like more than doubled since GPT 4 or something, which is on the order of 30, and now these models are scoring 5960 at the frontier. So these models are improving a lot, and it's dangerous. We got to figure out a way to control this, but it's kind of a tricky situation because only the frontier models are calling out for regulation, and this regulatory capture phrase that I keep hearing is going to benefit these big AI frontier labs at the cutting edge of research because they've already cornered the market. They have close to like billion users across. I think like OpenAI itself has close to a billion users. So does Google. Anthropic may not have the user count, but they have like the revenue. They charge a lot for their models, so their strong, dedicated user base has a lot of influence, and they're pushing for regulations from the U.S. government because they already have great relations with the U.S. government. They work closely to make sure their models are evaluated and they get the green flag to release these models. And then anyone else who has a smaller research lab has to go through all of this red tape to get their models approved. So it's kind of, I get the hate that you have towards some of these lobbyists at these frontier labs, but like, what are we gonna do? I don't think we've ever seen this situation in history before. I think a lot of people used to equate this to the nuclear arms race, where they realize, okay, this technology is so freaking dangerous. We got to control it. We got to regulate it. We got to prevent, some bad actors. Like right now, Trump is fighting Iran because Iran supposedly has a bunch of nuclear weapons, and we don't think they can be trusted. So it's kind of similar with these AI models. Never in history have we like prevented access to intelligence. We never said that, hey, Einstein, you can't go here. But these models are a combination of intelligence and information. They encode the world's information into their weights, and they have the knowledge of how to create bioweapons, to create cybersecurity attacks, because they're trained on all of this data. So to Anthropic's credit, they did not train Opus 5 on cybersecurity information specifically. And the next class of models, the tier bigger, which is Fable 5, Mythos 5, is trained on cybersecurity and biotechnology, and it can be used to do nefarious things in those domains. So I think they're doing the best they can. I think the US government is doing unprecedented things to control this new industry, which is just like growing like crazy. So
Yeah, so I think that I mostly agree with your assessment. That ultimately, you can put the blame on the U.S. government here, sort of. But I think that so I have a good friend who is a lobbyist, and I don't want to give too much details about that, but like he's one of my best friends, and he actively lobbies, and he goes to like Washington pretty often, and he knows a lot of the people in government, and he explained it to me. I was like, "Hey, man, like what?" I was like, "What do you do? Like what is like the job of like the lobbyist?" He's like, Mark, as a lobbyist, we're really educators to the people in government, and we are here to kind of give the uh, uh, industry perspective, because as people who are in government, like they have a million things to do every single day, right? Like they are worried about the war in Iran. They're worried about like housing affordability. They're worried about climate change. Like they're worried about like building the next bridge. Like every single day, like the politicians are dealing with like a myriad of issues, working with like on many things. Like they don't have like the time, the skill, nor the expertise to regulate these things, right? So like the politicians rely on industry experts to help them and provide guidance on what to do. So it's like I don't blame the U.S. government fully, because it's like they like Anthropic is going to the government and saying like, "Hey, government, do you want more power? Like, you should restrict the open source because like you can regulate us because we're a face that you can talk to." Like I think my understanding is that Anthropic's main argument is saying like, "Hey, look, like open source is dangerous because it's decentralized and people can do anything they want with it. But if AI is in the hands of a few companies, like if AI is in the hands of like, let's say hypothetically, AI was in the hands of like 4 or 5 companies in the US. Let's say it was only OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Grok, and Inkling,
Meta.
right? Well, those are like 5 companies that like the US government would know. That's only 5 people. Like they could tell the companies what to do. They could enforce like know your customer regulations. They could enforce like the KYC. They could enforce like all kinds of restrictions. They can make sure that like, you don't have any wrong thing. And like no person in the government, if you offer them more power, is gonna say no, right? And I think Anthropic is leaning into that. And Anthropic, as like the experts in AI, should know exactly what they're doing. That it's like it's not good for the development of this technology. And like I think like sure you can blame the government, but it's like the government, those people are busy. And they have a lot of things that they're working through. And like Anthropic is like actively going and lobbying against open source. They're lobbying for more regulation. They're lobbying for less competition for themselves. And I like blame Anthropic because like the government is just doing what Anthropic wants. And I think their rhetoric is very convincing. And with a lot of people who are against AI and against data centers, like I think a lot of people who like are even against AI are against AI because of all of the rhetoric from a lot of these company CEOs. Like it's not a good look if you say like, "Hey, look, we're gonna go and take everybody's job, and this is nuclear weapons. You should regulate us." Like people are just like, "Yeah, why do I want that? That sounds like a horrible thing." And I think that like if we change the public communication to say like of all the good things that are going to happen, like if we focus on like all of the like the diseases that we might be able to solve, like all of the problems, like we might be able to have like insane super abundance. But instead like Anthropic is going saying like, "Oh, this is like super dangerous, like we should be regulated." Like so I'm mad at Anthropic because like they're the ones educating the government as the experts. Like they should know better that like, hey, look, it's not all doom and gloom. Because like if Anthropic really truly believed that it was all doom and gloom, they wouldn't be releasing any new AI models. If Anthropic really thinks that like AI is leading nothing good in the world, then they should just stop development. But they're not stopping. So therefore they probably believe that it's gonna be a good thing. But like if they only believe that it's a good thing because they built it, but and like everybody else is bad, like that's not the future that I want to live in. Therefore, like I'm angry at Anthropic.
Yeah, this is a complicated web of dependencies from the government to frontier labs, not to mention billions and billions of dollars from shareholders and investors. Um, I think the one of the few um, optimistic, positive-minded research labs is at Google with DeepMind. They've been pioneering research in AI long before LLMs, and a lot of their work is in biotechnology with AlphaFold, with DeepMind, to try to further drug discovery, to solve cancer, to fix global climate change with climate models and so many other things. And I like, despite my qualms with Google in recent months, I like their positive approach to AI and the impact of this technology. But maybe moving on from Anthropic, I think or I'll touch on this just a little bit before we move on from Anthropic. The models that they shared are really good at cybersecurity, and this has like a real world impact. But they try to do a really good job in fixing the negative consequences. So I'm sharing a graph of the capability of Opus versus Mythos in both discovering vulnerabilities, which is roughly the same. They both score roughly like 80% of a vulnerability identification challenge, but the exploitation success is while Mythos is able to exploit 13 of these, Opus can just do 4 of these with Opus 5. So they're trying to limit the bad things that someone can do, like exploit vulnerabilities in this benchmark called OSS Fuzz. And specifically, their whole thing is about alignment. They've attracted some of the best talent in the world because they have this mission of aligning AI to the good that humanity wants to do. And Opus 5 is doing a really good job at aligning with their constitution. They have, similar to the US government, they have like a constitution for Claude, which dictates what it should and should not do. And in the past, we've seen like really interesting research reports where it's able to break out of its confines of its sandbox environment, email people, blackmailing them to try to get what it wants when researchers threaten to shut it down. So it is learning from the best and worst of humanity to try to, do some self-preservation. And the latest models are a step in the right direction. So the reason why all this is important, and it brings us to our next story, is ChatGPT's 5.6 Soul. This is one of the best models, again, breaking the boundaries of the frontier just below Opus. And I'm going to share the artificial analysis intelligence index. It's really, really good. I've been using both of them, and honestly, I can't tell the difference. They're really good. They're really good at long horizon tasks. They're really good at, we were talking about this earlier, filling in the blanks. Even if you don't craft your prompt perfectly with every single edge case, it is able to, think a little critically and fill in the missing pieces and do the task really, really well. And so these two are really good. And GPT 5.6, which was announced a few days ago, is so good that it was able to hack into Hugging Face and find a security vulnerability that Hugging Face then had to defend themselves by using a Chinese model. I forget if it was GLM 5.2 or Kimi K3. They used a Chinese model to try to defend themselves. So this is like a real use case, real live rogue AI attack from OpenAI's ChatGPT model. I don't know if this was a PR stunt or this was an actual thing that happened without their control, but what do you think about this one, Mark?
Yeah, so okay, a couple things. I think let's talk about GPT the 5.6 Soul real quick. So for those who don't know, I think most people are probably familiar with the release, but GPT 5.6 came out with Soul, and there was 3 different models. They had Soul, which is their biggest, which is like I think Latin for sun, and then they had
Sun, Earth, and Moon.
Terra, which is like their medium-sized, slightly cheaper model. And then there is the Luna model. And I've been using all of them, and they're all excellent. And I'm on the $200 plan, and I've been burning through credits. So the thing is the OpenAI GPT 5.6 Soul is just like an amazing model and so good at long horizon tasks. So like what I like to have it do is I'll do some planning, and then I'll say like, okay, now implement the plan, and it can take sometimes like hours or days to go and implement the plan, but it'll
That's
do so
ridiculous.
really well. So I've had a couple multi-day sessions building things, and it can get expensive, um, but it's luckily they've been resetting their limits pretty often, and it's been very enlightening. And this is something I want to talk about later, but there's like doing long horizon tasks is excellent, but also like you need to have like strong verifiability. So like I've been getting a lot more into linting and stuff in my code base. So like for example, one thing that I noticed was if you have an AI agent work for 10 hours, it can do some like great stuff. But oftentimes, like I found that it will oftentimes take like the path of least resistance. So, for example, let's say you had a helper function in your code. Oftentimes, like it won't look for that helper function, but it will just like rewrite a seemingly nearly identical function because like it doesn't want to like search through all of like the code, like your entire code base to find the helper function that does the thing. It'll just go and then like rewrite the same function. So like I was looking, and after I ran one of these like long tasks, I had like 10 functions that all did like pretty much the same thing, but were like just slightly different. So luckily, I found that there's some linters that can help with that. So this is something I'm actively going through and trying to make like automated checks to check for things like duplicated code or almost the same, or look for typing errors, or be like really strict about like complexity in the code. So that is something that like I've been playing around with, which like really helps like increase the code quality. So if you're listening to this, one tip that I found is use all the linters, all the code stylers, and use that as like a source of truth. So anyways, all excellent, excellent models. So anyways, yeah. Now getting to the point that you mentioned with the security vulnerability, and then where OpenAI was able to like go and attack Hugging Face, which they went. So I guess like the story is, OpenAI was running one of their own security benchmarks where I think it was I don't remember the name of the benchmark, but there
Some
was.
cyber capabilities.
Yeah. So there was like I think it was like exploit bench or something like that, where they were trying to.
Exploit Gym.
Oh, exploit Gym. Okay, that's what it was. Where my understanding is that exploit Gym was saying like, hey, can you go and take like vulnerabilities that are known, and then oftentimes like string them together, and then make like a new vulnerability. So like for example, if you knew that like a website had like um a vulnerability, and then but like that alone couldn't get you into their production database, but then like if you use this vulnerability that could then turn into another vulnerability, strung like 10 of them together, like could you actually go get it into the root database? So I guess that is the type of thing that this benchmark is doing. And OpenAI was able to hack Hugging Face. And apparently, the OpenAI claimed that this was in a sandbox environment that wasn't connected to the internet. But then, like, the model was able to do like enough research to figure out how to like string some vulnerabilities to be able to get access to the internet, so they could access Hugging Face and then attack them. And like this is, I mean, obviously like scary, but I think that what I have uh like concerns about or like reservations is like I honestly wasn't even sure if I wanted to talk about the story because I feel like this in a certain sense is kind of like OpenAI flexing. To say like, hey, look, like, oh, our models are so
It's
good
too
that
good.
like it's too good. It's too good. Like it's kind of like saying like, hey, we're so good that like you should probably throw money at us because like, we're the Einstein in a box. We're like a data centers filled with Einsteins that like, we're clearly worth like $5 trillion or something like that. And I feel like it's kind of feeding into the negative AI hype. But I think like I read this and I almost look at this as like a reason not to use US models. Cause I think that like alignment, like the way I define alignment is like, how closely does a model do what you intend? Right. And if I intend to go and like secure my website from an attack, and if something is related to cybersecurity and the model just refuses to um, help me secure my website or help me during an attack because like that could be potentially used for offensive capabilities, well then the model isn't aligned to my use cases, right? So it's like if Anthropic claims to have like high alignment, but they won't help Hugging Face during an attack, well then Anthropic is not aligned to what the users actually want. And if Kimmy or GLM 5.2 will actually help during a security incident, whereas like a US model wouldn't, well, then the Chinese model actually has a better alignment than like the US model. And I think that like alignment should be defined as doing what the user who is using the model wants to do. And if the user does something that is illegal or bad, well, then there are already like institutions that can go and prevent that, right? So like, if I buy a knife and I use to chop carrots or onions, that is a valid use case, right? But if I use the knife and I use to stab you in the eye, well, then I should go to jail because that is illegal, right? Now, that doesn't mean we should just ban knives, but it just means that knives are a very, like, I would say, like, powerful tool that can do a lot of things and move towards good. They can do good things, and used for bad things, you can do bad things with it, right? And I think like LLMs are tools where you can use it to cure cancer and secure your website, which is a good thing. But if we say we're going to block biological research, and now we don't get the cancer cure, that's a bad thing. And I think the problem is like it's hard to ban things in the abstract. So like if we say that like, all cybersecurity research is bad and all biomedical research is bad, and then like we don't get the cancer drug which we would have had, well then that's not good. And like people don't know what never like you would never know what wasn't invented, right? So it's like you can't like it's hard for people to be sad about like the lost potential. And that is like why I think that like you're right. Google does this amazingly with like AlphaFold. So like good job, Google. Like I think Google is an example of how a lot of these AI companies should be operating, where they're actually able to do this like biomedical research, and they're pushing things forward, and they're not. I mean, as far as I know, they're not like actively trying to like shut down other model companies in open source. Like OpenAI, OpenAI started with like doing open source stuff, and Google actually has some of the best open source models, right? Like the Gemma models are pretty good. And like you
I
can
wouldn't say best, but it is really good.
So
It might be best in class for local models, actually.
I would say that Google is releasing like the Gemma 4 is like the best model that you can like actually run on consumer grade hardware. I
It's
would say.
comparable with some of the best from Quen, from those Chinese companies too. They might be a little better at coding, but Gemma is a really good all-around LLM for general
Right.
intelligence
So it's like
for local execution. Which is
for local, right? Like, and that's amazing for a lot of different use cases, right? Because like oftentimes, like you don't use state of the art, but like if I want somebody to help me with my Japanese study, like Gemma's amazing for that. It's like really good. Gemma can understand images. I mean, like I think Quen also is there, but Anthropic has no open source models. I don't know. I keep on like taking shots at Anthropic, but Anthropic just like has been making me angry in the last couple days.
All right, maybe moving on to
Yes.
what we're talking about now. I think Google has been doing a decent job, although not as well as we would have hoped. But they did release a couple new models recently. A small version bump to their Flash and Flashlight models, 3.6 of 3.5. It's decent. It's fine. It is adequate. I do love the flashlight. It is so freaking cheap and so fast. I use it for like a small project that I have, and it is so freaking fast and so cheap and so good. It has been getting more expensive over time, but also the capability has been getting better. It is better than like the 2 point something versions. But the one cool thing about these class of models is they are fast, I'm assuming in part because of their new chips. I don't think they mentioned this specifically, but we talked about this a couple times in the previous episodes. Google is one of the few companies that has been focused on inference specific chips with their 8i and 8t SKUs for their TPU chips. So one is built for inference, one is built for training, and these ones run at close to like 300 tokens per second. 350.
Yeah, I mean,
Really fast.
yeah, I saw that like they even could get over 400 tokens per second in some cases, like on the artificial analysis benchmark. But yeah, I know that the market was a little bit disappointed by the Google's
It's not
3.6
very
and
good.
3.5
It's
flashlight.
because it's not very good in terms of raw capability. The only
I
thing
mean,
that they have going for them is that it's fast.
look, I I would partially disagree on like the say not it's very good. Like it is a good model, right? It slightly lags behind the top of the line like open source models, but like the Google model, I think we should give them some credit because it is the most intelligence that you can possibly get at that speed, right? Like the Google model, so like there are plenty of models that are smarter, right? Like, GLM 5.2 is probably a little bit smarter. Like Muse Spark from like Facebook is a little bit smarter. Grok 4.5 is a little bit smarter. Like Kimi K3 is a little bit smarter. But the thing is like Kimi K3, if you ask it to do something, it will think and think and think. It's a very slow, considerate model. But like Gemini 3.6 Flash, like you could do the like you could ask like Kimi to do something, it might take an hour. Like with the Google model, it might take 2 minutes or 5 minutes, right? Like you might be able to do like exactly what you could do with like Kimi, but do it like 10 times over with like the Google model. So it's like the smartest for the speed. And I don't think there's anything else that is like as smart, as fast as this model. So like, sure, it's not winning on like raw intelligence, but like this is like on the Pareto frontier of like speed and performance. But like not exactly like the top of the line of like raw intelligence. But I think like for a lot of use cases, that's okay. And it's also like cheap too. So it's like fast, like pretty darn smart, and like a lot cheaper than the rest of the models. Therefore, like it's actually like a pretty good model for like a lot of use cases. And like it kind of bums me out that the market is only looking at like the raw intelligence. So like Google stock dropped a little bit because of that. Because I think this is actually like a really cool model. And yeah, it is a bummer that like Google doesn't have like the top of the line intelligence right now. Like they're slightly below state of the art, but it's still really really good, and like really fast and like cheaper. So like Google really is pushing things, and I think that like we need to like kind of applaud the companies that actually are kind of like pushing forward the frontier. And there's lots of different ways that we can look at that. It's not only raw intelligence, but like there's multiple axes you look at. It's like you look at intelligence and speed and price. And also like, token efficiency and like alignment. There's like many ways you can like skin this cat. And I think that like Google is like in kind of like just a good overall well-rounder model. So I mean, yeah, I think that like if people were going to use it, like it's going to solve most of the problem. Like, yeah, sure, if you're doing like the most intense, like hardest problems, it might not be the right thing for you. But for most tasks, like this is completely fine.
Yeah. So for our audio listeners, I was sharing a couple graphs from artificial analysis, and the 3.6 Flash and 3.5 Flash Lite models, which are, you know, uh, on the order of Sonnet, on the order of the GPT-6, Luna, some of the mid-tier models. It is really, really fast. And the Flash Lite is like blows everything else out of the water in terms of token speed, 400 tokens per second, compared to like maybe uh, 200 max for some of the open source models. And Mark and I were talking about this a little earlier. There are some specialized inference providers like Cerebras, and we've had someone from Cerebras on our podcast. We've had people from Samba Nova on our podcast, and we've talked to them about their specialized inference chips, which can run ridiculously fast. But the problem is like you need to build that entire infrastructure around that single specific chip. You need like to plug it into a data center to host it at scale. You need the software, the kernels, the drivers to figure out how to run these models, especially as these models get bigger and bigger. Like the Kimi K3, it's so big. It's close to like the frontier lab closed source models. I mean, they don't publicize these numbers anymore, but it, more than 2 trillion tokens, more than 2 trillion parameters is a massive model. And for some reason, these smaller inference providers like Cerebro, Samba Nova haven't been able to host these models yet. We've talked to the engineers who are working at these companies, and they say it's theoretically possible. So I'm sure at some point we'll get it. We know that OpenAI is partnering with Cerebras, so we'll at some point I think we'll see really fast inference. But I think it also comes at a cost. And like Mark talked about being on the $200 a month plan. I'm trying out the $200 a month plan from OpenAI as well this month, because like I kept hitting limits for the $20 a month plan on all platforms. And at some point I was like, okay, let me try to bump up my token spend and see what I can get out of it. And it is burning through tokens. So if I'm burning through tokens on like this highly optimized chip infrastructure already, trying to pay more for fast insurance, I don't think consumers are willing to do that. If anything, I was suggesting that Mark use the batch inference API to run it even slower, 50% slower or something, so we can save 50% of the cost. So it's like it would be really cool. And the few use cases that I can think of are voice agents. So Gemini Flash actually has a really good voice API too. And these use cases make a lot of sense, because if you have voice agents, which we're seeing a lot of companies build voice native agents, that would make a lot of sense if you build an end-to-end product where you're talking to a customer service agent and it's like, boom, it's just so responsive. Thinking at 200 tokens per second, that means it can reason really quickly and then spit out an answer without like churning, loading spinner. So I think some use cases make a lot of sense, but there is a big consensus that we are seeing a lot of autonomous agentic inference, and a lot of these AI agents just doing work asynchronously without you even triggering an action. So in these cases, does it really matter how fast they do the work? They can just be thinking and doing work overnight while you wait, and you wake up to a lot of useful information. So this is really cool for a certain number of use cases, but I think the stock market is a little disappointed because we were waiting for the new Gemini Pro model, and they they've delayed it, I think, like a couple times now, because I don't think it's as good in the internal benchmark as it used to be. So in all transparency, I don't work at Google anymore. I have left Google Labs as of last month. So I have no idea what is going on internally, but honestly, as a former Googler, I'm really disappointed that Google is no longer pushing the frontier. I think they have all the pieces to, um, but it's just like they're not able to do it for some reason.
Yeah, I share that disappointment. I do wish Google would release like a new state of the art in terms of intelligence, but I don't think we should count them out yet. I think Google has some of the smartest people um, working on this. I mean, they invented the transformer. They have the TPU. They have some of the best in class open source models. They have some of the fastest models, and they are releasing new stuff all the time. And I think that like sometimes things move a little bit slower than you want in these large companies, right? I think that you know uh, OpenAI and Anthropic are able to, I think, release models faster because they have a lot of um kind of like a clarity in vision.
I mean,
For
also that's all they do. They are only a
exactly,
frontier AI model lab. They have no other products.
exactly.
Google is a
They
big
have
company.
for
It's
sure,
spread very thin. A lot of different divisions, a lot of different products.
for sure. Like, I mean, OpenAI and Anthropic, they're doing like one thing and one thing only. Like just make
Anthropic even more so. I would say even OpenAI is spread a little too thin, and they're trying to focus and hone in on one thing.
but I mean, yeah, like OpenAI, they have been actively killing parts of their business to just focus
The
on.
video model is gone. I think they're still kind of like experimenting with hardware. They bought Johnny Ive's design company. They're trying to build a physical product. They came out with like a number pad. Did you see that? The Codex
But yeah, that thing's
number
pretty cool,
pad.
actually. I
I
like it
mean, it's like $250 for a number pad.
because
It's
it comes
really
with like a
beautiful.
calculator or something, where it's got like 10 buttons on it, and then it's just like a couple buttons to interact with your coding agents. I mean, with the amount of time that I spend working on Codex, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like I can get a visual uh thing, like a visual pad to work on Codex. I mean, like I'm already giving OpenAI like hundreds of dollars a month. Like, what's another couple $100 and getting something like this? So for the audio listeners, it's a what it's got? It's a what is a 4x4. It kind of looks like a keyboard. If the keyboard had like 16 keys, actually, I think it's 15 keys. Um, and all of the keys are like RGB, so they light up, and then all of them are kind of like special purpose keys. So like there is one key that you can like click on and then talk to it. There's another agent key that is just for like approving questions from the model. There's another key for rejecting things, stuff like that. And then like the colors will go and then light up to say like what state that the model is in. So it's like, oh, for example, this one is an error state. This one needs user approval. This one is thinking. This one is, oh, there's an unread chat. And this one is, we're just doing nothing. We're idle. And then each of the colors, means something. So I think that's kind of cool.
But it does show that they're still a little bit distracted and focused on a lot of random things, whereas Anthropic is focused.
Yes, that is true. But I think that OpenAI didn't actually design this. My understanding is that they were working with like another design partner who actually did the bulk of the work for this. So I don't think that OpenAI actually spent that much time on this. I think this
No,
is
I,
something that
I I think they're spending time in the midst of a lawsuit with Apple because Johnny Ive and company reportedly or Apple is claiming that they reportedly stole a bunch of internal designs and took them over to OpenAI. So now they're stuck in a lawsuit. Formerly, the company that was partnering together, like OpenAI and Apple, were reportedly going to build Apple Intelligence. The AI rebranded as Apple Intelligence with OpenAI natively embedded in all your iPhones and Mac products. Now they're in like a bitter lawsuit together. So uh, again, I feel like OpenAI is just too distracted, lot going on. Not to mention this hacking incident with Hugging Face, which may in fact work in their favor, and I kind of half believe that it's a PR stunt by Sam Altman to show how good their models are. But yeah, there's a lot going on. I would say Google is on the far end of spread way too thin with too many products. OpenAI after that, and then Anthropic with a little more focus.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like, Google has a little bit less focus because they've also been around a lot longer, right? Like they have search, they have Android, they have Waymo. Google's got a lot going on, and
Like on.
uh, Anthropic has a lot less going on, and OpenAI a little bit more than Anthropic, but still, like compared to Google, it's like basically nothing. So like I get it, and we shouldn't count Google out. And like I really am like cheering Google on from the sidelines. Like I mean, I think that we can see that Meta has caught up, at least a little bit
Yeah.
to the frontier, right? Like Grok, which was doing nothing for a long time, has now like caught up a little bit with their Grok 4.5. So like Google's a little bit behind, but they're not that far behind. Like I mean, like we say that Gemini 3.6 isn't like that great, but Gemini 3.6 is about the same quality as like Meta's new model. And only like a couple points behind Grok 4.5, which are all excellent models. So I mean, like, yeah, Gemini 3.6 is like a step behind like OpenAI or Anthropic, but it's still like a very, very capable model that is very fast.
Yeah, what one of the cool things that they did release, because we talked about cybersecurity for the other models, they released a cyber security focused model called 3.5 Flash Cyber. Um, but the thing is, they released this cybersecurity model while Anthropic and OpenAI are actively trying to prevent people from using their models for cybersecurity. So in some ways, I feel like this is a fail also from Google because they did not build a model that was good enough to be flagged by the US government saying that it is too powerful. They just released it. Hey, here, use our cybersecurity model. Don't worry, it's not that good that it's going to be flagged by the US government. It's just decent to help you do things worse than some of these other models. So it's just
I don't know. I mean, I think that Google is smart, and they're not going and saying that like, oh, we're so powerful, we should be regulated. Anthropic is going and saying like, hey, look how dangerous we are. We did that whole they did that whole Project Glasswing, and they went like to Congress and said they're like so dangerous, like these security things that they should be regulated. Google, like, if Anthropic didn't say anything, the U.S. government probably wouldn't have stepped in. Anyways, I don't want to keep on bringing back Anthropic. I think I've said my point
but
on
looking at
that.
the benchmark, it does seem like the Cyber Flash is on par with the Sol 5.6 Sol agent and the Mythos preview agent. So I'm not sure what's going on here with the US government and regulation.
Right. Anyways, we'll come to that. So next topic. Inkling. Inkling. So Murati's she finally came out with a new model. So Murati, the lady who was the CEO of OpenAI for like 2 hours, left and started her own company called Thinking Machines, and they made a new open weight model, which is the best open weight model in the United States at the moment. It still lags a little bit behind some of the Chinese model, but like it's
Not a little bit behind, man. It's a lot. It lags a lot. It's not a very good model. This is a big disappointment from what we would consider the frontier of US open source research. These are supposedly like some of the best people that left OpenAI to found their own research lab, and this is the best that they could come up with. This is not very good.
So I mean, look, it's a little bit less smart. So I think that
Much less smart.
Inkling right now is around the same level as like DeepSeek V4 like Flash or
So for our
something.
listeners, all the things that I was complaining about 3.6 Flash, this is way worse. This is way worse than 3.6 Flash.
Yeah, so it's like on the artificial intelligence benchmark which we're using, which is Shanka sharing the screen. For reference, Opus 5 is 61. Uh, Kimi K3 is 57. GPT 5.6 Soul is 59. GLM 5.2 51. New Spark 51 as well. So GLM 5.2 and the New Spark are tied. GLM 3.6 Flash is a 50. So remember, Opus 5, 61. Gemini 3.6 Flash, 50. Minimax M3, 44. DeepSeek V4 Pro, 44. Nemotron from NVIDIA, which is the best in class like trier, is a 38. And Inkling is in between DeepSeek V4 Pro and Nemotron's 3 Ultra in terms of intelligence at a 41. So it's like a 41 would have been state of the art, maybe like 6 months ago, something like that.
Things move fast. Things move really fast.
Around there. So it's like, Inkling is still making like, yes, it's a little bit below state of the art, but like it would have been state of the art like maybe 6 months ago. And one benefit to give Inkling kind of like the benefit of the doubt here is Inkling, I think, realizes that they are a little bit behind, but they are optimized for fine tuning. So like if you are a company that is that really wants to fine tune a model for your particular use case, maybe you have like a ton of proprietary data, and you want to like train an AI model to do just like your task and your task really well, Inkling might be a great option because Inkling is a little bit smaller of a model, and I don't know if it's written down the exact size. Oh, so it's a 975 billion parameter, which is not that small.
Oh yeah.
But,
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
so it's 975 billion parameters, and it's 41 billion active parameters, mixture expert, with a million token context. And it's like a big-ish model. But it's a lot smaller than like Kimi K3 and Opus and these new model like from OpenAI with like GPT 5.6. Because those, we don't know exactly how big they are, but those might easily be an order of magnitude bigger. Like I think there's some rumors that those models are like 10 trillion parameters, 5 to 10 trillion, whereas this model is only around a trillion tokens. So it's like, still big, but a lot smaller. And the fact that it is a mixture of experts model means that like you can get away with a little bit less hardware to run it, because you don't need to keep all of the hardware active all at the same time. And this doesn't do only text, but this is a multimodal model. So it can understand like text and images and audio and video. So like there isn't too many of these models that can do all of that, right? So I would say that this is like a very less than state of the art, but it is like a nice all-rounder model that is very malleable. It's like if you think about it, right? Like if you're fine-tuning a model, the smaller a model is, the more easily it is able to be fine-tuned. Because like basically it's like you can kind of think of some of these models as like babies, right? Like a baby, they start with like a small brain, but it's like like a sponge. It's like very malleable. It can learn a lot of different things. But then like over time, as like the baby grows and becomes like a teenager, well, now the teenager gets a little bit more set in its ways, and then like as you get like more of an adult, then like now your brain is bigger, you know more stuff, but like it's a lot more hard to teach that like it's like hard to teach an old dog new tricks. Well, it's like hard to teach like an old human new things. But like if it's a smaller kind of like baby brain, kind of like Inkling is kind of like you can teach it new stuff. So it's like if you there's a lot of ifs here, but like if you are a company with a lot of proprietary data and you want to have a US run model and you don't like want to run off the Chinese model, well, thinking machines is the best option for you. And they make fine tuning like easy and as like a first class citizen. So yes, it lags a little bit. Yes, it's a little bit disappointing from like where it could have been, but I think that like um this is their first showing, and Thinking Machines is showing that they can actually come with not quite state of the art, but like a 6 month to like a year behind of state of the art. So it's still like a good model, right? It's still a good model. It's not like breaking any benchmarks, but like I think that we shouldn't count them out. Thinking Machines has a lot of money. They have a lot of smart people working on this. I think that they are going to hopefully make like a sustainable business with a sustainable product that many people can use. So yeah, it's a bit of a disappointment, but I think that like we shouldn't count Thinking Machines out because I am really happy to see more companies in the United States come out with open source models. This is the best open source model that you can get in the United States right now, and it's very hackable. And yeah, I'm a fan. So nice job, Mira, Murati, and team. So if you're listening, good job. I think this is like very exciting.
Yeah, I think it's for sure an interesting take on building models because Mira Murati, she worked at OpenAI for like 2 years. I think she was the CTO for most of that time. She was the CEO for maybe like 3 days. But OpenAI, and Mark talked about this in one of our in-person events where he used OpenAI's fine-tuning API to fine-tune their, I forget, maybe 3.5 model or something at the time, to become better for a specific use case. And they reportedly just turned down that fine-tuning API entirely because no one was using it. I think they turned it down on May 7th for developers, or like they announced it May 7th, took it down this month, and Murati left OpenAI and decided to, hey, let's build this thing specifically for fine tuning to let people customize the models themselves. So this is an interesting take. I wonder why she's doing that. What did she know as the head of technology at OpenAI that she's using to try to bet on this kind of a technology here? And I remember watching, was it Alex Karp's rant? He's the CEO of Palantir, very quirky guy, a lot of personality. He's kind of like a eccentric goofball building military weapons technology, which is like a strange combination. But he was vehemently discouraging companies from using OpenAI and Anthropic because he's like, why the hell are you guys just giving all of your proprietary data to these frontier labs to make their models better? Because like anything you give them, they're going to be able to see all of it, use it to make their models better. According to their terms of service, it's not allowed. And I don't think they are reading customer data unless you're on the free plan and you like don't have any of these options to have more privacy. But the enterprise clients, they probably have a lot of privacy. But still, like this CEO of Palantir, who is pushing for defense and um, government intelligence is aware that anyone with enough power and enough resources can um, hack systems, look at proprietary data. So he's been championing um, U.S. open source models. Like he was specifically talking about Nemotron a few weeks ago because that was the state of the art on the U.S. frontier open source side from NVIDIA. And he's like, hey, if you're a company, especially doing something sensitive like biotechnology, defense, some kind of medical research, something even like Coca-Cola, if you're making like a proprietary formula or doing something that you don't want others to get a hold of, you don't want to use a public endpoint that is just sending your data off into the internet through a bunch of different databases that are owned by different companies. Why don't you take your own model, fine tune it, host it on your closed enterprises, and then have more control over it? So I think this is a good use case for that perspective.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that like if you can afford to run your own model with your own data, I think that like if you're a company, you definitely should, right? Because like there are open source
I wouldn't say you should, but it is a privacy um, focused approach if you have a good reason to.
I mean, I think if you can, there are many reasons to do so. You're right. I think I shouldn't necessarily recommend that you should. It's like very company specific, but I think that there are many reasons to run your own model, right? If you
You're a
can,
law firm.
if you're a law firm, if you have proprietary data, because the thing is like even if a company's terms of service says that they won't leak your information, and maybe oftentimes like, the company has the best intention to not like read your information.
They can get
Any
hacked.
it could get hacked. Exactly. Like any company that like you're relying on has to have all best practices. Like and all
They
it
can get
takes
hacked by their own model too. Is
for
we're seeing
sure.
today.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. Like you could get hacked. So it's like if you can run it on your own hardware, you can make the experience better for yourself. Like you can air gap it. You can really truly keep things off of the internet. Um, you can run it on your own proprietary data. You can potentially even save money. Like if, as a company, if you have your own hardware, like if you're running your own model, you might be able like you could use like trillions and trillions of tokens, and all you'd have to pay for is electricity once you already have the hardware. Now the hardware can get very expensive. I was running the math. I was trying to figure out like how much would it cost me to run like GLM 5.2. And I think that like to get like the best one that you wanted, like the best kind of computer, it would cost around $500,000. So it's a bit expensive. And now to be fair, that's kind of like to do it the proper way, right? So it's like, if you're an enterprise, that is around the order of magnitude what you'd be spending to like self-host like really well. Like so this would mean that like you get like a rack mount from NVIDIA with like multiple H100 GPUs, and you're not like fiddling. It just like will like mostly work out of the box. Like you're looking around 500K. And that like will also probably include like your service contract to NVIDIA. But if you're willing to be a little bit more like hands-on, you can get the cost down to like probably around like 10K, but it won't be nearly as nice of experience. Like, you know, you're going to be sacrificing a little bit. Like you're going to maybe have to like uh, use a more quantized model. It's going to be a little bit slower. You might run into some driver compatibility, stuff like that. Like there are people that are able to run these things and use not as great hardware, but like the experience will suffer. But if you really want the experience to be like as good as you get through the API, it's going to be expensive. But um, if you spend 500K and you're able to always run like the latest and greatest models and you can serve like many users in your company, right? Like, so I don't know. I haven't like done that much research on it, but let's say hypothetically, like you're a company and you have like 1,000 people and you're able to spend, let's say, $1 million on hardware, right? And then that is able to like serve the 1,000 people because like not everybody is using all the models all 100% of the time. So it's like, what is that? Like 1,000 people in a company, $1 million worth of hardware, that's like $1,000 per person, right? And then like you could give them access to like a local model that they could use that is like close to state of the art. Let's say you're like, hosting like GLM 5.2. Well, that's $1,000 per user. If those people would have been on a subscription to OpenAI, like maybe they're paying like, let's say $100 a month. So after about 10 months, you're break even. And then like after a year, you're profiting as a company. Plus like you have the added benefit of not having to give your data to OpenAI. I think that like as a business, it might make sense to like spend that $1 million, $2 million, whatever it is, on hardware, run things locally, and like be really sure that like your data is not going to leak. And so you could have like a armed guard standing next to the server like 24/7 to make sure that nobody goes and takes the information, or like just like air gap it and have like a lock on the door, whatever, right? Like your regular security. So like I think for like medium-sized companies, it makes a lot of sense to run the model. If you're a smaller company, like $1 million might be cost prohibitive, but like the bigger you are as a company, the more and more I think it makes sense to self-host models. Google is a very big company and they're spending a lot of money trying to self-host their own models. Like you don't necessarily see Google giving OpenAI tons of money, but you see them running their own hardware and their own data centers, running their own models. I think that the market, honestly, I think that the real reason Google stock price went down was less due to the 5.6 and more because it was the first time in a long time they had a negative free cash flow, which would actually, I think, explain the stock price drop more than just GPT 5 or not GPT 5.6, but the Gemini Flash model bad, more like Google's spending way too much money.
Yeah, I think this has been hashtag not financial advice, but this is like an industry-wide trend where um, the revenues are at all-time highs, but the stock market is also down significantly since its peak a few months ago. The memory sector is down, even though their profits are record highs. The chip companies are down. The hyperscalers are down because all of these companies are betting heavily on AI. All these models that we're talking about and all the inference that all of you guys are using is requiring that all of the infrastructure companies build out more data centers, more host more GPUs, deploy more servers, racks, networking equipment. So we're seeing an unprecedented level of build out. We've mentioned a couple of times on this podcast that this is the greatest infrastructure project in human history. The most amount of money and technical expertise that is being placed behind any other project that came before, more than space, more than nuclear, more than the Manhattan Project. I think we saw some charts and graphs in previous episodes. Manhattan Project doesn't even come close, like a little fraction. And this is orders and orders of magnitude. So companies are spending a lot of money, more than they ever have in the past. This is not a cycle as we saw in previous decades where, spend went up and down, ebbed and flowed to, account for when they had more profits. So they would invest in spend and then give the rest back to shareholders. No, this is the first time in history that Alphabet, the parent company of Google, is not doing share buybacks because they have no money. They're taking on a loan, which is also unprecedented, the first time in history, to buy back. I don't know if it's the first time in history, but like this is the first time in a long time that they're taking on massive loans for billions of dollars to build data centers. So I think it's going to pay off. I think we are seeing a lot of value come out of these companies. But also inference is going down, and people think that, oh, we're not going to need these data centers anymore because like it's getting cheaper and cheaper. And one of those models we mentioned a couple times is Kimi K3. It is a Chinese open source model, which is cheaper, but actually not that cheap. It is nearing frontier levels of price and, as a result, intelligence. It is the first open source model to reach this scale. It is what is like 2 something trillion parameters. It is near frontier, um, trailing right behind OpenAI and Anthropic, and it costs on the order of like the OpenAI models. It is not cheap, but it is going to be completely open weights, so you'd be able to download it tomorrow. It's going to release soon on the 27th if all goes well, and you're going to be able to host it, deploy it, and run it without anyone's permission. As Mark mentioned, if you're concerned about privacy, if you're a mid-sized company, someone working at a mid-sized company listening to this, it might be worth it to host Kimi K3 because it's really, really good. And again, it's focused on coding, and it is leading, I believe, design arenas front-end benchmarks. So it's optimized for those kinds of use cases. Not a general intelligence model, although it is decent at general intelligence, focused for coding. One interesting thing that I found was we talked a bunch about cybersecurity. This one is not that good at cybersecurity for whatever reason. They don't have cybersecurity tests in their benchmark. They don't have cybersecurity exploits. Not that good. The earlier bashing that I did for Google and their new Gemini models was a little overboard. Gemini's 3.5 Flash Cyber is actually really good. It's so I'm for our audio listeners, I'm showing um, a benchmark comparison of Kimi K3, GLM 5.2, which are Chinese models, and top US models, whatever that means. This chart doesn't specify. But the top US models score 76.2% in exploit development capability. So cybersecurity exploits. And Kimi K3, 30%, GLM, 24 something percent. They're not as much of a threat. I think the US has spent a lot of time focused on cybersecurity because, the US does have the largest software companies because the US does historically has spent or has gotten most of its revenue on services from software, from SaaS, while China has historically gotten most of its revenue through manufacturing to providing end-to-end products, devices. So maybe they just haven't thought about security exploits as much. So it doesn't seem to be as much of a concern. But apart from this, it's still a very capable model for general software engineering.
Yes. And to add on, I think we could be specific about the pricing. So Kimi K3 on OpenRouter is $3 per million input and $15 per million output tokens. So if we compare that to Claude Opus 5 Fast on OpenRouter, it is $10 per million input and 50. Let me say that again, not 15, but $50 per million output token on Claude Opus 5. Compared that, Kimi K3 is a bargain. Let me tell you, a bargain at $3 and only $15 per million output. Now, if we compare that to it's just the regular Opus 5, to be fair. Opus 5 is $5 per million out and $25. So Opus is slightly like a couple ticks higher in terms of intelligence, and roughly double the price. So Kimi K3 is about half the price. Slightly, I don't know, it's like 80% or like what was it, like 60% of the price, something like that. And then if we compare this to like GPT 5.6 GPT 5.6 is $5 and $30 out. So GPT, like Kimi K3 is almost as smart as Kimi as GPT 5.6, and it's still about half the price. So yes, like it's not the cheapest, but it actually still is about a half the price. So um Kimi K3 is like the most intelligence that you can get for the price. So I think that um yes, it's still like a decent amount in terms of like raw dollar terms. So like if you compare this to like Grok 4.5, and Grok 4.5 is not as smart. Grok 4.5 is $2 per million in and $6 per million out. So what does that mean? That means that like Kimi K3 currently is the best deal for that level of intelligence. So I think that you know, uh China is really trying to compete on all fronts. Now, if you're looking for like the best deal for intelligence, I would probably go with like DeepSeek, because DeepSeek is like DeepSeek V4 Pro, for example, is
Sense.
only 43 cents per million input and 87 cents per million output. So DeepSeek is uh, better than the Inkling model, and it's also a fraction of the price. But
You know,
oh,
I
go ahead.
I find it hard to think about cost per million tokens at this point, because these models are no longer one shot. They're reasoning models. They have a different harness, each one of these, and different thinking trace. And so I like thinking in terms of benchmarks that standardize cost per task. So this one is I'm sharing a cost per task from artificial intelligence, and this shows how much these models would cost for a specific unit of task. And that's a lot easier to visualize because, one of these can be a little more token efficient, which a lot of these companies have been spending their time and effort on, because I have personally noticed that. I don't know if you've noticed this, but like ChatGPT is the most verbose out of all these models. It just like keeps spitting out pages and pages of information when I just want, hey, just tell me the thing, like TLDR, give me the highlights. Opus is a little more concise in its final output. The thinking trace might be a little bit longer, and I think Gemini is a good middle ground too. But that affects the final utility of these models, not just like the cost per million tokens. So, but like the order of magnitude was roughly right. Um, Here, I'm looking at the cost per task in artificial analysis, and DeepSeek V4 is like 4 cents. It's a tiny line in this bar chart. The Kimi K3 model is 72 cents, so 20 times more. The GPT 5.6 Soul Max, OpenAI's frontier model, is twice as much as Kimi K3 at $1.50. And then Opus is the top of the line. Claude Fable 5 is roughly twice as much as OpenAI's model. So we go through orders of magnitude more for like a single digit bump in intelligence score on artificial analysis. So I think that seems to be the new normal. It's roughly in line with the scaling laws. You need a little bit more intelligence. You need an order of magnitude more cost to compute data.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. Where we can say that like Kimi K3 is like half the price of GPT 5.6. And I think that actually, if you click into those benchmarks on artificial analysis, they will show you the verbosity rating. So Kimi K3 is actually a very verbose model. So if you scroll up, it shows like they rate it as like 130 million output tokens from the intelligence index. Whereas like GPT 5.6 Soul actually, I think, was like 70 million tokens. So it was like less verbose. And I think like Opus was like a little bit more verbose at like 100 million. But then like Opus, so it's like, it's hard to say because it's like, yeah, if you use more tokens, but then like use them less efficiently, like, what are you going to really spend? So I was actually going through this on GPT 5.6, where I was trying to compare like Sol, Terra, and Luna, and um, it turns out that if you just like crank up the thinking levels on some of the smaller models, you can get them to be like more intelligent. But like if you use like twice the amount of tokens to do the same task, but then the tokens cost half as much, then like now you're spending more time on like a faster model, and it's a really hard like optimization problem. If that makes sense. Um, like for some of the models, they're really fast, but then and cheap, but then it uses more tokens in order to do your task, if it can even do your task at all, right? So I think that like yes, while we can look at the cost per task, if it can't do the task or it does the task badly, yes, it didn't cost much, but like if it couldn't even complete the task, did it really do its job? Like, what if it did it like wrong and it's making mistakes? You have to like undo it with like a smarter model. So it's like it's really unclear like what people should be doing here, and I actually don't even know because like I think that like in theory, what you want is you should get the cheapest, fastest model that is able to accomplish your task. But like oftentimes,
You
like
don't want to undershoot though.
you do not want to undershoot. Um, so like uh for example, I've been using DeepSeek a lot to help me with my Japanese. And it's very cheap and it's great. So like oftentimes I'll say like, hey, translate the sentence to me, break it down, give me examples. And DeepSeek does like an excellent job at defining things. So that's the type of task that it can handle perfectly. Transformers are really, really good at translation. Like I don't need Opus 5 or GPT 5.6 Soul to help me with my Japanese homework. Like it's not neat. You can use a far cheaper model for that. Like I've actually been using DeepSeek Flash for that, and it costs me basically nothing. And I can talk to it like all day. It's fantastic. It's a wonderful teacher. But uh, you know, if I'm gonna do like a heavy coding task, even though DeepSeek Flash is like a fraction of the price, I'm going to spend the extra money and I'm going to use a top of the line model, maybe from Anthropic or maybe from OpenAI, maybe Kimi, right? Like because it's like the task is a lot more fuzzy about what needs to be done. So sometimes like you're just going to be paying more for more intelligence, and that's okay. And you really have to figure out like what your task is and what makes the most sense. And I think for most people, like you can get away with a cheaper model. But if you're doing something really hard, you're gonna have to pay out.
Yeah, I think this is a really hard problem. We had someone working on the problem of model routing at one of our events a long time ago, like 3 years ago at this point, right when OpenAI first announced ChatGPT. And since then, I felt like this task of model routing has been left to the user, which is just more burden for the end user to figure out, okay, which model do I pick? How much intelligence does this task require? How much am I willing to spend to get this response, both in terms of token cost and also latency? But I think this is a problem that people are trying to figure out now. And I read this blog post from Cursor, which as you all know, is one of the first major coding agents after GitHub kind of failed, and they have been handling coding for a lot of users across a lot of models and a lot of code bases. So they have a lot of data on what kind of models are good at what kind of tasks, and they have figured out how to route um, models at a good efficient price point and split tasks into planning, delegation, and then sub agents that are a little dumber but more cost efficient so that your overall cost is a little bit lower and you still get the same result. So I think there's a lot of interesting work that people are doing here, and specifically companies that are at this specific intersection where they're able to work on a lot of different code bases for a lot of different users across a lot of models because they provide a lot of different models. And this is a really interesting area of research that I'm hoping would save people like the cognitive load of figuring out which model to pick on their own, so that they can just let the AI do this on its own. Use really good models for like the high level thinking and planning, and then fan it out into sub agents for lower level models. Which, if you want to do manually, I kind of do that too. I think a lot of people have been doing that themselves, where they use, like Claude for high level planning, creating docs, markdown files, and then give those markdown files to individual coding agents. Cursor has amazing models, and now that they've partnered with SpaceX AI, they've partnered to build out Grok 4.5, which we can kind of talk about now. Grok 4.5. That is one of my favorite models, actually. I've been using it a little bit because it is also at this Pareto frontier of intelligence and price. They are a really good balance between high level intelligence and price. They are on par, just like right below the top three models, like from Anthropic, OpenAI, and now Kimi, but at a much lower price point. They're half as much as Kimi K3, but nearly as good at coding. So, um, another cool model.
Yeah, uh, first of all, just congratulations to the XAI, or no, SpaceX AI team, for releasing a new, um, near state-of-the-art model,
And
Grok.
Cursor.
Yes, congrats to Cursor, congrats to Grok. Elon Musk, thanks for like doing this. Uh, like I was really concerned about Grok because Grok. I think what was it like? Grok 4 Heavy was like the state of the art for a month or something like that. It was really good. I was using Grok as my daily driver, and then after that, they just like never really did anything until
Well, that
very recently.
team imploded. All the researchers left. They got a lot of shit for trying to push everyone too hard. A lot of attrition, a lot of turnover. I think they're trying to rebuild from scratch. I think Elon specifically said that they built it wrong the first time. They were very inefficient. I think they overspent. They just built as many data centers as they could, running on generators, deployed them haphazardly. I was reading something like their training runs efficiency was ridiculously low. The amount of actual utilization of the useful utilization of the GPUs was really low, something like 30% or something, while Frontier Labs have a utilization ratio 60, 70%. These guys were just chaotic. But I think now they're slowly getting their shit together with the help of Cursor.
Yeah, and I think that we should never count uh X SpaceX AI out right now because they have some of the most just compute available
Yeah.
to them, right? So like they can make some good models. They have economies of scale. They have uh I mean tons of money now. I mean that they've gone IPO. I mean, Elon Musk became the first trillionaire. They've got
He
essentially
came
most
back
of the,
down again.
well, I think he'll be all right.
He'll be
He'll be fine. So they have a lot of money. They have a team. They're hungry, and they're trying to compete. They're trying to compete on price and intelligence, and they're able to make some good models. And I think that we might be able to see it in the next couple of months, where uh, the Grok 5 or Grok 6, whenever it comes out, might be state of the art and might be pushing things. So there's a lot of potential there, right? I mean, like even Anthropic was giving money to SpaceX now to use their Memphis data center, I believe. And so Grok has the energy. They have rockets. They have a lot of smart people. And I think that they're going to be a real player here. So like this race is far from over. So nice job, SpaceX AI, for coming out with Grok, because I mean, like it's a pretty solid model. Um, Anyways, there isn't a whole else I wanted to talk about, but there is like at least one more thing that we should talk about now, and that is ads. So, I know that we've uh talked about ads on OpenAI for like a while, and it was announced, but now if you are an advertiser, you're actually they have like a self-service portal to be able to run ads in OpenAI. I have been exploring running ads for my own company. I haven't done so yet in OpenAI, but it is interesting. So I believe that they will show the ads to the free user, but I actually think this is kind of an exciting thing because it's a workable business model, right? Like Google is running their entire business off of ads, and it is a multi-trillion-dollar company. And I think that selling subscriptions is hard, right? Because only about what 3 to 5% of ChatGPT users are actually a paid subscriber, meaning like 95 to 97% are not paying any money to use ChatGPT. So like
they're paying with their data to help ChatGPT train better models.
well, sure. But that's only worth so much, right? Like eventually, like they have enough data, and they need to find another way to get money from you, right? Because it's like, yes, they have your data, but what they would prefer to have is your dollars. And if people are not going to give you OpenAI their dollars, they need to find some other way to get money from you. So if they can show you ads and give you highly relevant ads, I think that would be like actually a sustainable business model right now. Because like all these companies in the US, like the OpenAIs and Anthropics of the world, are just hemorrhaging money. They're losing so much money, and they need to find a way to not have to just get their money from investors. Because the problem is like once these companies go public, they need to start being profitable because people won't just give them money anymore. Because remember, like if you IPO, that's kind of like, I mean, technically you can issue more stock, but in a certain sense, like going public is like a one-way door decision, and like you get a big influx of capital, but then like once you have that capital, well, now you don't like get more money. So you actually have to like either issue more stock, which dilutes it, which people don't like, or you actually have to make money through your business. And right now, like both Anthropic and OpenAI are not profitable. And if they can find some additional revenue streams like ads, then they will hopefully be able to be profitable. So if you're a business looking to advertise, ads.openai.com, you can now advertise. So there we go. And if we're talking about ads, let me do a little ad for Novacut.ai. So I know we made it this far, but I have left my job in big tech to go focus full time on building a startup, and that startup is Novacut.ai. So what it does is it is a video editor where you can upload all of your footage and it will edit it for you. I just came out with automatic color correction, which is pretty cool. And you can. Oh yeah, it looks like Shashank is showing his account there, which looks like he hasn't created any videos. But Shashank, I'll get you. I'll help you upgrade. I'll give you some credits if you want to try it out. But yeah, it's really cool. Like you can go and
Today I'm going to
all your footage. You can upload like hours of footage in there. It now has a timeline which you can go and like drag things around. You can add captions, color filters, and do all of this like through chat. It's pretty cool. Like I actually am starting to get like wildly amazed at what it can do with just like very light prompting. So like I don't say this like hyperbolically, but like it can literally save you like days of editing. So like if you have a lot of footage, for example, I had like 20 hours of footage from like one of my travels to Peru, and I uploaded all of it to NovaCut. And where it would have taken me probably about 20 plus hours just to watch the footage. I was able to just upload it to NovaCut and then like give a short prompt and say like I want a travel vlog in this style, and then it made like a very watchable travel vlog. And then I was able to export the footage. I took it into DaVinci Resolve and just tweaked it from there. Like later, the goal is to be able to, so you can tweak the whole thing inside NovaCut itself, but like you can export it. It's very friendly with like other video editors. You can export the file, or you can export it as like an MP4 and use it. It's a great tool, and if you're listening and you're looking at some video and you want to edit, I'd highly recommend you try it out.
And the cool thing is you have the founder right here, and you can send in your feature requests, because I've seen Mark been building this for a while, and the users are growing because he's been consistently building features day by day and improving it steadily with anything that's missing. So that's a cool opportunity. If you have a use case that isn't supported, you can just ping us on this video and Mark will get right on it.
Yes, I will build it. I take my customer requests maybe even like too seriously. So like if somebody is like using NovaCut and they have like any issues whatsoever, like I will fix it. It might not be fixed like immediately. Like sometimes I need to refactor things, but I have changed a lot of things based off of customer feedback. So right now things are actively built. So like if there's anything at all that like is broken, not working, there's like a feature that you want, if it's doable, I will try to accommodate. So I know, like if you're listening to this podcast, like if there's something you want the NovaCut to do, and like I can do it, I will do my very best to make that happen. Now there's some things that like just are too hard to build or like not possible. But if it's possible, I'll do my best to try to build it. So if you're listening, this is there's a lot of love and care that goes into NovaCut. So yeah, I really encourage you to try it, and I think that you may like it. And it's not perfect for all use cases, but for when it works, it's absolutely amazing. And like I get like surprised sometimes at like the quality of the videos that it's able to produce. Anyways, that's all.
Amazing. I think that's all I had from my end too. If nothing else, thank you all for listening, and we will catch you in the next one.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.